Hey everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of Cinema A to B. Alec, today this is fresh in theaters. F1, the movie.
The movie.
Fortunately, the opening title card was just F1,
Yes.
which was reassuring. So yeah, this is from Joseph Kosinski of Top Gun Maverick and Tron Legacy fame. Give me your kind of initial impression of F1.
So I'm going to start off kind of how I viewed it. So you talked me into making sure I saw it in IMAX, and 100% have to say thank you for forcing me to go see it and paying the extra money to see it in IMAX. Even though it wasn't filmed in IMAX cameras, it was absolutely gorgeous. And being the Tuesday of opening weekend, basically, the theater was packed. And it was the most packed theater that I'd been in for several years. But I have to say I was a little nervous of just like the experiences that I've had lately have been, a lot of people on their phones or talking or just not kind of being there to watch the movie, like paying a bunch of money to go see a movie and then not paying attention, which has frustrated me. So I was quite nervous, but I will have to say this was a very reverent group. Like we were all there to watch this movie and it was probably like almost 100 people in the theater around me, like all in like the back section, and it felt like going to the movies like pre-pandemic or like the good old days of like, this is what we're here, like we're all experiencing this together. It was a wonderful, great experience. No problems with lights, no problems with color, everything was dialed in. It was gorgeous, and the fact that the entire movie was in that IMAX full frame was fantastic. Just looked gorgeous. We playing spoilers or we not playing spoilers? Because obviously we need to talk about this right up front.
I think we will go ahead and play spoiler on this.
Okay.
It's become our modus operandi, for better or worse.
Okay.
Until I get a bunch of pushback, I think that's just
fine.
how I'm going to play it.
So if you've gotten this far and you haven't seen it, we recommend you go see it, or I recommend that you go see it. Ben hasn't said anything. And if you can catch it in IMAX, catch it in IMAX. I haven't seen it non-IMAX, but I just will have to say it was definitely worth the premium charge for IMAX. So getting into the thought of it, this is a really good movie. I really enjoyed it, but it is a by the book story. Like this, it doesn't change anything. Like there's nothing, like all of the points that happened or the plot beats, I knew far away in advance. There was nothing that they did differently, but there's a reason why this story works. It works. Even though I know everything that happened, they did a great job of enacting it. The emotional points hit. They made me feel things. I was engaged in the characters. The acting was stellar. Like it was just all really well done. In a lot of ways, I like this better than Top Gun Maverick. I think this is, even though I like planes, but
I would agree.
I think the story in this and the characters were much more engaging than Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I felt like Maverick leaned a little too heavily on nostalgia, and F1 does not have that crutch to lean on. And so what it offers is a little bit more layered nuance. In some ways, though, it's like a very similar story to Top Gun Maverick. Like the grizzled veteran comes in and, shepherds
the newbies who don't take to him at the beginning. Yeah, it's the same story, but
it is, and it reminded me of a movie I'd forgotten about, and it's not a particularly good movie, but F1 from a story standpoint basically is a remake of the Sylvester Stallone IndyCar film Driven. So the plot is almost exactly the same in a lot of ways. Grizzled vet brought in to try to rein in a talented but cocky, youngster on a team that's not really doing well. So yeah, it's kind of paint by numbers when it comes to that. But you're right, everything's executed at such a high level.
Yeah.
From the cinematography, the edit, the sound design is exquisite, especially in IMAX. I thought the sound was as impressive as the visuals. So for me, a movie like this works because it's putting you into a place that almost none of us on the planet have access, which is in the cockpit of a Formula One car. In the same way that Maverick did it with sitting in an F-18.
Yeah.
And the spectacle of that is worth the price of admission. And yeah, I'm with you. I like this a bit better than Maverick. And I'll tell you what it is. I find Sonny Hayes quite a bit more interesting as a character than revisiting Pete Mitchell.
Yeah. I think Sonny has flaws built into the character where Pete Mitchell, you know, like he's got like his cockiness is his flaw, which also is it's like one of those like tell me your weaknesses in like in interviews, but you really say strengths. Like that's Pete Mitchell to a T. It's like his weaknesses are also his strengths, where Sonny didn't have that. Sonny had real flaws. Like he was a broken, flawed man, and it shows, and it kind of goes, and he's still wrestling with things, and that was, I think, what made him interesting, where, especially in Top Gun Maverick, Pete is just like, whatever. The only thing that's missing from F1 is some form of Star Wars knockoff scene. Like, I didn't really get that. Like, I was waiting for it. Like, you know, Top Gun Maverick, you know, they basically do the Death Star trench run. Like, Tron, let's just be honest, there's a lot of lightsaber fighting in Tron that, you know, is basically Star Wars. So, like, I was just waiting for that. Didn't show.
No,
Didn't see it.
It's not there.
It's not there.
So disappointing.
Both disappointed and not at the same time. It was kind of refreshing to not have that. But I will say, like, talking about the movie, like, what was also on point was a lot of the actors were just, like, I just got to say it, Javier Bardem is flipping amazing. Like, I just don't get how good he is. This is a nothing part.
Yes.
He's not a main character. He's a minimal side character at best, but every time he's on screen, I'm drawn to him and I just care about his character. Like, I don't know what it is that he does, but he's just a master at his craft of being on screen and getting people to buy into whatever he's selling. Like, I don't know. Like, I think Brad Pitt's a fantastic actor as well, but I'm going to tell you right now, Javier Bardem just works circles around him. And actually, in a lot of ways, Brad Pitt is, in my opinion, one of the weaker actors in this. And not in like a bad way. I just don't think this is not one of his best performances. Like, it's fine. Like, I see some of his nods to some of his early works. He's like not pushing the envelope, where some of the other actors are just really doing stuff. And so, again, not a bad performance. Still great performance from Brad, but it's definitely not one of his best. Like, I wouldn't put even his top 10.
No, and it didn't need to be.
No.
But I felt like his material, I felt like the situations that the characters put in, he's just perfect for. I love the scene where the guy's recounting all of like the failures professionally and personally, and Sonny's up at the press table, podium, whatever. And he's like, and you were divorced like 3 times, and he's just like,
yes.
Yeah. Pitt is perfect for that kind of confident, cocky, deadpan delivery almost in those moments. So I felt like Sonny's writing was better than a lot of people. So it's almost like he didn't need to like try to elevate the material as much as like Bardem for sure. And then Carrie Condon like totally elevates the role.
Yes.
And you and I love her because I was introduced to her with the show we both love, which was the 1 season of Luck that ran on HBO. And that's the first thing I ever saw her in. And she's tremendous. And it was cool to see, you know, like Pitt's pushing early. He's like early seas. They could have so easily cast a gal like even 10 years younger than Carrie is in that role. And the fact that they opted not to do it, I think is really great. She's like, I think she's 42. So she's still 20 years his junior. Although Pitt, if you start doing the math, Pitt's kind of playing more like 52, 53, somewhere in there, which to me, he pulls off fine. Like his face is a little weathered, but physically the guy's a stud. Like him and Tom Cruise, like apparently have the secret combination of genetics and, you know, peptides.
Yeah, exactly. Just one of them has a death wish. The other one likes living. But, and again, I want to stress that I don't think Brad put in a bad acting in this. Like he's not a bad performance. This is absolutely still great. It's just, I think what you said is a lot of the dialogue worked with him. And I think some of his quirks, or especially when he was talking to Carrie near the end after, you know, they gotten together, whatever, when he's on the balcony and they're having that little like fun moment, he goes back to a lot of the same kind of stuff that he would do in a lot of the romantic comedies that he was in, or like some of the Oceans. And I could see that like, oh, this is my go-to in this scene, and this is what I do in this scene. As someone as an actor, that's what I do. Is like, I'm like, oh, I really like using this, and I kind of pull from it. It's just a lot easier to watch him in 20 movies and go, oh yeah, when he's kind of playing the semi-embarrassed but happy in a romantic way quirk of the mouth, that's what he's doing, you know? And so that's what I'm seeing. So like, it wasn't anything new or anything pushing his boundaries. He was relying on old staples, which is great. And again, he's a great actor, but it didn't give me anything more than, you know, like if he had done Fight Club or 12 Monkeys or something like along those lines, where it was really like he's pushing his normal envelope. But other than that, everybody else was good. The guy who played Joshua Pierce, I thought also did a really good job too of just kind of playing not so much the indecision, but the kind of, he was very unsure, like playing that kind of unsure nature of like, I want to be this big star, and so I got to like puff out my chest and do this, and I've got my manager telling me to market myself like this, and then I see this guy who's everyone's loving and doing nothing of that, you know, and he's like, I'm trying to prove myself, and you know, I think I'm hot, you know, the hot stuff, and what am I going to do?
So I thought when it comes to him and his youthful character, I thought the movie did one thing really well when it comes to that, and one thing kind of poorly. What it did well was the contrast between his like inexperienced, brash youthfulness and the grizzled wisdom of Sonny.
Yeah.
And the conflict between the two. And the messaging I thought for the movie was really cool, which was like, hey, your elders do have valuable things to say if you'll stop and listen, and they're not always trying to like pull one over on you. Where I thought it messed up was I didn't think Pierce's character arc was handled very smoothly. He rode so much of the movie opposing Sonny, and then it's very quick. He suddenly is buying in. And I tend to like to see a more gradual move in a movie over 2.5 hours to where they took him, because it was really, and then they had Sonny do a really silly thing where he kind of gets ticked off and then does something really reckless. And I didn't like the fact that both of them wound up in the hospital. I just thought that was kind of ridiculous. Like it felt disingenuous to the character. It's like, Sonny, this doesn't make it felt so out of the character to even pull that stunt that it fell real flat for me. It was just real awkward. And then Joshua's like, he just gets to that point really quickly from like earlier, like 2 minutes earlier, he's like still in this headspace of opposing Sonny at every turn, literally. So I thought that was kind of clunky. And I've got one other thing, but I'm going to save it because I'm kind of curious on your thoughts on that. But there is one other. It's honestly my biggest gripe of the movie. It has nothing to do with the plot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll be interested. So I agree with you. So like, it was funny because again, like you said, it was very much, he was kind of against him. And then they just showed that one scene where he's like, bring up, I forget which track it was. And he was like, let me play it over. And he keeps doing his, and he keeps doing his thing and keeps sliding. And he does, you know, Sonny's thing once and it makes it. And it's like, Sonny's amazing. I'm like, that is, I mean, see, that should have been earlier. And that's when the turn should have started of when he starts trusting, you know, like if they had done that earlier on and it hadn't been a full switch, it'd just been like, oh, Sonny maybe is not out to get me. Maybe Sonny is. So he starts listening to him, starts working with him. And then you see them kind of bonding together as a team.
Right.
And then when it comes to the end, then he understands. Like, no, he wasn't like trying to get me to fail. He was actually trying to get me to win. He was legit giving me the ropes. Now, I do laugh because it happens in these movies all the time where the old grizzled veteran comes in and basically just all the people who've spent their lives learning about aerodynamics and all these kind of things. He's just like, you're all wrong. Let me just tell you, let me just put some knowledge on you that you've not thought of or done anything with. And I'm like, it's nice in a movie, but like, I doubt that's really how that works. I mean, like, I understand there's a difference between like, you know, being the person who's using computer graphics and stuff like that to figure out the right slipstream and the right curves on it. The person in the car, like there is that difference, but it literally comes in like, you all are clueless who've been doing this for years. I'm just going to come and tell you one thing. Oh, now we're winning. You know, like that always makes me laugh.
So yeah. And I am not a diehard, but I have followed Formula One off and on for probably at least the last 10 or 15 years. And yeah, what he has them do to the car is patently absurd. Like Formula One just doesn't work that way. Like there's no way to configure a car that's just now miraculously competing in the turns is where we have our advantage. And I just kind of eye rolled in the theater when he did that. I was just like, oh, whatever. Suspension of disbelief. Like I'm already buying into a 60-year-old driver returning to Formula One.
Yeah.
This is okay. This is fine. So, but my big gripe, it kind of took me out of the movie a couple times because the movie can feel a little bit repetitive. I mean, it's a race, right? But the repetitive nature is not my complaint, but it fed into that. They leaned way too heavy on like play-by-play commentary from the race announcer.
Yes.
It was incessant. And I know what their intentions were good, which was to spoon feed me, the viewer, on like what was the strategy was or how it was perceived, what they were doing on the track. But it was so heavy-handed, and there were just too many moments that I wanted to hear an occasional chatter on the radio with Pitt and Pierce and their crew, and then the engines roaring.
Yeah.
And the tire, like, and it was interrupted again and again and again by the commentary.
Yeah.
And it took me out of the movie. I was like, this is just way too much commentary for a feature film. Like, it just doesn't, it's, fortunately the final act, they dropped that for that moment that you all knew we all knew was coming. Like, and so that was like, well, why couldn't you give me a little bit of that earlier? And they did a little bit of that at the beginning when he was at Daytona.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the movie grabbed me right away in Daytona when they're driving those Porsches and Led Zeppelin's
playing.
I'm like, you got me. You already got me.
And that reminds me, I got another gripe that has nothing to do with the plot of the movie. I was waiting because first off, the soundtrack is fantastic in this movie. Both the songs that they pick and then also Zimmer's score is just. I was listening all day today. The score, and it's fantastic. But in the soundtrack, like Led Zeppelin, like just tons of different stuff, is they play Gary Clark Jr.'s Bright Lights, but then I may have missed it in the credits, but they didn't give it credit in the credits unless I missed it, and it's not on the soundtrack. And I'm a little frustrated because that is a fantastic track, and they did it just right too, like where they placed it. And I really like Gary Clark Jr. I think he's absolutely fantastic a musician. But so I felt a little bad for him, like he's not getting the recognition he deserves for his track being in the movie.
I've been listening to F1 the album on Spotify, and not all the songs, when I loaded it in yesterday or the day before, there were only like 7 or 8 tracks in there, and I refreshed it today and there's like 14. So it's like stuff's getting licensed out and then added in as we go, which is kind of weird. But yeah, there's some bangers in there as far as like commercial music that they had produced. A lot of it, I think they had custom done for the film. It reminded me, this movie so much reminds me of an early 2000s summer blockbuster. Like with the popular music tracks they've got attached to it that work really well. And it's a big event film, and it's worth your money on the biggest screen that you can see it in. And the plot is like, not very deep, but it gets you from point A to B to C in quick order, and it's just a lot of fun. Like I had a smile on my face most of the movie.
Kind of like the original Transformers, like a Pirates of the Caribbean or something like that.
Yeah, like anything made in the 2000s up to like probably up to like 09, 2010, somewhere in there. There was a formula that Hollywood was kind of operating by, and even in the 90s, in some ways, it feels like something that could have been made in 1995. Like, I loved, by the way, the old footage they did of a de-aged Pitt was really freaking cool. Yeah, and like fairly convincing. The fact that they mucked it up to be like VHS, and then I thought it was super funny that Senna's the one that ran him off the road. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
That does.
Yeah.
So It was good. I will say the one thing too that they had. So obviously they did this during the 2023 and 2024 F1
Yes.
races and stuff like that, so they could film it in seasons. And so they brought Hamilton, who is apparently arguably currently the best F1 racer right now. They came in and he watched it.
I wouldn't say he's the best right this minute.
Well, not this moment. He hasn't won this season, but like in the past couple of years. Anyways,
it's Verstappen, but
yeah,
who's also in the movie.
Well, so Hamilton is the top.
Yeah.
He said top. Anyways, but apparently Kaczynski brought him in to watch the film just to get his ideas and thoughts, and he just ends with, he goes basically goes, "Oh, that looks fast," and Kaczynski was like, "Man, if Hamilton thinks it looks fast, then I've gotten it right." Yeah, he's like, I don't need to do anything else. Like, this
so he was a producer, financier of the film, and obviously he's in it a little bit, and then he makes contact with Pierce at the end, which I didn't recognize this. I'm not a diehard F1 fan, like I said, but apparently the way Pierce kind of gets taken out at the end of that race is a little Easter egg for F1 fans, because that's what happened to Lewis Hamilton at the end of a season 4 or 5 years ago, I think, maybe earlier. So that was like a little nugget that they put in, like where it's like Hamilton almost switched places with what really happened to him. So it's kind of cool stuff like that. And then you're aware that they actually, Pitt and the other guy are driving F2 cars.
Yes.
That are
and
built
they have
to
electric
look
motors
like,
in.
That are built to look like Formula One.
F1s. Yeah.
Yeah.
I read that. And then I also read, they had thrown in electric motors in there then, but they were still doing like 180, in those cars.
And sorry, I forgot his name, Damson, who I liked. And I need to see that show that he's in, because I forget what it's called. It was like the big project that he had been working on prior to this, the TV series Snowfall, like 60 episodes of it. It's really highly rated. I think I need to check this out. So he's I thought he did a nice job. Like I said, I just didn't think his arc was as well written.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that's not his fault.
No, it's not. It wasn't anything performance related. It was more,
I think he played it well.
Yeah.
But also going back, Pitt's character, kind of his accident and originally with Senna, was based off another real F1 driver. Now, that F1 driver obviously didn't come back in the 60s and race F1, but like the whole accident and the injuries and things of that sort. I don't remember the name of the driver, but that was kind of thing. So there's definitely a lot of real life nods that they do throughout the movie to kind of pay homage. One, because Pitt is a huge F1 guy apparently too. Like, he loves it, and actually was supposed to be, and just racing in general. And he was actually attached to the precursor to what became Ford versus Ferrari as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, but I forget why he had to dip out of that or something, but it just never came to fruition. And then the story changed a little bit, and they called it Ford versus Ferrari. So
interesting.
Yeah. Which I will say, while I did enjoy this movie, I would probably pick Ford versus Ferrari over this.
Yeah.
Even though that, like, this looks fantastic in IMAX, and I didn't see Ford versus Ferrari in IMAX. Just the character and the story just feels. So
the stories and characterizations and stuff are much better in both Ford v Ferrari and Rush by Ron Howard with in fact, if you're a Formula One fan, like a diehard, Rush is the better film by far. Yeah. It's less spectacle. Like, and I saw Rush in a theater and it was amazing. In fact, it's one that I've kind of been reminded of from this movie to like get on Blu-ray. But yeah, Ford v Ferrari, Rush, like, but it helps the fact that those are both based on true stories and like real people.
Yeah.
That you can lean into when you write those characters. So I give this a lot of credit because it's coming up from a pretty much a blank slate. And it's trying to appeal to a much broader audience as well than either of those other two movies. I mean, so I think some of the criticism of Kaczynski's a little unfair. I think people like to claim that his plots are like paper thin, and I'm like, that's not anything I've encountered. And I really like his movies. Tron Legacy is still probably my favorite.
Oh, absolutely.
What he's done. But yeah, does he give preference to the visuals? Of course.
I mean,
of course, but
they look spectacular. I mean, Oblivion itself You know,
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy that movie. It looks great. Obviously, Top Gun Maverick we talked about, and this. I mean, these are beautiful looking films. Like these are just absolutely like gorgeous to watch.
Yeah, and he's kept the same core team together for these, same cinematographer for all of his stuff. I think probably the same editor. I thought the edit on this was really quite good. This thing's top notch. This reminds me of like in the debate of like, how do I phrase this? I think this is one of those movies that reminds me how important execution is as a filmmaker. That, yeah, the story's not as good as those other two racing films we've discussed, but it's not like those are like, to me anyway, head and shoulders above this.
Yeah.
Like they're better,
But
because the story's more compelling, but this entertains just as well.
yes,
And that's what Kaczynski and Bruckheimer are doing. Like, it's so cool to me that Bruckheimer's like found this guy and been able to like resume the formula that Bruckheimer was like establishing in the 80s and 90s with Tony Scott and a couple other directors. I'm convinced now Kaczynski's are Tony Scott.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean,
I think he's got his very defined aesthetic. I think you're going to see movies come out from Kaczynski that are more character driven. Give him time. I don't think he's just going to continue to make these massive spectacle films. I think they'll make as many as they can, but eventually he's going to get creatively, he's going to kind of get bored and he'll be like, I'll make something a little more character driven.
yeah.
Because Tony Scott did the same thing. I mean, he didn't just stay in the Top Gun space. I mean, he did Man on Fire and Crimson Tide, and
Didn't he do? He did Spy Game, right?
I think so. Yeah, yeah, he did with Pitt
yeah, and
Redford.
And Redford, yeah. I really like that one,
Yeah, it's good.
and that's much more of a character film than anything else. So
Yeah,
yeah. So I do have to say one thing. One actor, give him a little credit. I was really happy to see what's his face? Oh my goodness, why am I? Shea Wiggum in this for just this short amount of time.
I kept expecting him to come back like midway through the movie.
Yeah.
I thought they were gonna fire the old man, head of the team.
Yeah, who
and
kept
bring
bringing
in
on his
Shea.
Yeah.
I was like, that felt like a missed opportunity to me.
Yeah, it did. Well, but I was going to say is like, I was so happy he was in there because not that it was that Mission Impossible Final Reckoning left me a bad taste with him because I totally don't, it's not him at all, but I just felt he was underused and they kind of ruined his character. It was really nice to kind of see him and be like, hey, here we go. Here's a good little role for you. Like, you're fantastic as always. Your acting chops are right there. Like, great job. And again, I want to stress, Shay, is not you in Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. You're not at fault there. I think a lot of it was the script and the changes they made to make you fit into this bigger role than what you should have been. Yeah. So I was happy to be like, I don't have a bad taste in my mouth after he's off screen.
No, and with Kaczynski teasing the whole concept that they might do a sequel to Days of Thunder that's a crossover that would include Sonny Hayes, then you have I think an opportunity to bring Shea back as the crew chief.
Yeah.
In NASCAR. I think they got to do it.
They got to. I think it's brilliant.
I think they have to do it. And I think that you make a Days of Thunder sequel as a crossover with Sonny Hayes and Cole Trickle, and that you pull a Michael Mann like Heat, where you get half the audience to root for Sonny Hayes and you get the other half to root for Cole Trickle, played by Tom Cruise. And you portray them where they're diametrically opposed to each other on the track, but you get the audience to like pick a guy.
Who they want to, yeah.
Yeah, I totally think it would be pretty unique, very difficult from a screenplay standpoint, because you're going to have to give those guys equal time, more or less.
And lots of money.
Yeah, a lot of money.
I mean, Pitt made...
But I think both those guys probably would take back-end deals on a movie like that, because I think a Days of Thunder sequel would make
just
an absolute killing. Yeah, because you have this technology that they use to shoot this movie with full cooperation of NASCAR. Yeah, and NASCAR is such a different sport now than it was in like 1990. Like there's so much less contact between the cars than there was in 90s. So it's like, it would be different.
Yeah.
I think that was what was so funny about Days of Thunder was like the overabundance of contact.
Yeah. It's like bumper cars out there.
Totally. I want you to hit the pace car. What? Hit the pace car. Why? You hit every damn thing on the track. I want you to be perfect.
Forgot about that.
Dude, Days of Thunder is such a funny movie, both intentionally and unintentionally. It's hilarious. I love Days of Thunder. Like, I think it's so much fun. Yeah, I think they have to do it. I don't know what a sequel to this looks like, though.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the studio's gonna be confident enough to have Damson Idris carry it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, and the story would have to be there too. You know, you don't. It's not there. You don't have that built-in story. You'd have to build something else out of it. Because obviously, you know, Sonny has kind of moved on. It's like, well, check that off. Let me try something else.
Yeah,
you know? And it'd take a lot.
That's
to
why.
bring them back.
That's why you got to do the NASCAR one, because it would
that
just
one,
be.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be so much fun. Yeah,
that would be.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
That's brilliant. You know what? Producers, studios, you can have that one for free.
Well, Kaczynski's the one that floated it. I'm not coming up with anything unique other than telling them to not pair Sonny and Cole together.
Yeah, yeah.
They gotta butt heads. Like they gotta be. You can't even put them on the same team. Like they need to be on different teams
against each other, and get the audience to buy into one side or another. And the promo marketing would be easy as all get out to do that. In fact, I think you probably make it more where Cruise's character is kind of the bad guy, because you've had almost 30 years to like say that this character is like probably owned NASCAR and retired and yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know.
As long as we end the movie with them racing to Moby's God moving over the waters, and then they stop at the finish line and they get out and they.
Well, I'm going to remind you how cheesy they ended Days of Thunder, where literally Tom Cruise and Robert Duvall are in a foot race and they freeze frame it. It's a freeze frame. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that, please. I was joking about the Heat reference. Don't do that.
Oh
either.
Yeah.
Don't hurt Heat.
They're holding hands and they drive.
Yes, they drive. No, they're gonna do the Fast and the Furious thing where like they come up and they just go different paths and then they leave. No.
By the way, I'm gonna say something really inappropriate, but I just saw a meme fake movie poster for the next Fast and the Furious. And it was called Weekend at Brian's.
That's terrible.
It was Vin Diesel and The Rock holding up Paul Walker. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was really
That's
bad.
really bad. Yeah, too soon, Ben. Too soon.
Well, they just announced that Fast 11 would feature Brian. They'd bring the character back.
Okay. Now I'm going to check.
Well, apparently
they
used technology to resurrect him for Fast 7 and used his brother. He has two brothers that look a lot like him, and they used him. So anyway, we're tangenting all over racing movies.
Yeah. And go back to F1. Any final thoughts on F1 that we didn't
No, I mean,
chat about?
I'm not even going to give a recommendation, right? Because this is a spoiler episode. So anybody that's listened to this, although I do know a couple listeners that like to listen to us spoil episodes for movies they never had any intention of seeing, which I think is
fair.
Kind of fair. So no, obviously we think it's well worth the ticket price to see this in IMAX. And I should say I took Gwen and Laura, our daughter, to it, and we made sure because it's so loud, she had her kind of noise muffling headset thing in case for times it got too loud. And there were a couple sequences she went ahead and threw them on the kind of muffle, but because they did have it pumped. It wasn't painful, but it was kind of right on the edge. So it was thumping. But yeah, it's a really fun movie.
Yeah.
It is. Again, it's just I had a smile on my face coming out of it. I was just like,
it's a by the numbers story, just executed really well, and which makes it a really fun, enjoyable watch.
Yeah, Hollywood needs to pay attention to this stuff because the formula's there for the studios to continue to be viable.
Yeah.
It was weird seeing Apple at the opening credits, and I guess they shot a few places. They shot iPhone.
Yeah.
But they didn't just. It's a misnomer because they don't just slap an iPhone on the car. It's got a specialized adapter with a cinema lens and rigging.
Well,
it's
the cameras for the cars were like 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. Like they were tiny. Like apps, I was reading about this, like what they were actually using. Like they had to develop. They were like even smaller cameras that were used for Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah,
and so it's not like they just like put an iPhone, hooked it up to an F1 car. Like they actually had to build something. But
no, it's a stunner. It's a stunner. Yeah. It's gonna sell a lot of copies on the Blu-ray and UHD market because this is gonna be one of those discs that you pop in to flex your home theater, both the picture and sound. So
well, and it's doing worldwide. It's already done $160 million at the box office.
It's doing pretty well,
and that's only been I guess Thursday, like since Thursday. So this is now Wednesday, so less than a week or almost a week that's been out there. I mean, and the budget is estimated at $200 million. So in the first weekend worldwide, you almost made your budget back. So
your initial marketing. Your initial budget.
So I think that's fantastic.
I think it'll have legs because I was looking on Reddit and there's a couple people that have gone to it 3, 4, 5 times.
Impressive.
So you get that kind of repeat viewership, which is pretty elusive. Then that bodes well. So, no, you have any last thoughts on F1?
I've already told a couple of friends who were thinking about seeing it that if you can go see it on IMAX, it's worth the upcharge. It's just gorgeous.
It is.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
Great.
It was a good film. It was fun. So, well, we just want to.
No.
Who's closing this out? So we just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us on this episode of Cinema A to B. We really appreciate it. We love doing this. We love that people are listening. If we're going to say it now, but if you have something that you want us to talk about, shoot us an email at cinematob@gmail.com or go to our Facebook page or our YouTube channel and put in the comments there. We'll be glad to add it to the list of what we're talking about. So till then, we'll see you next week with another episode of Cinema A to B.
Thanks, everybody.